Hi, guys. Welcome to Weekly Travel Updates. I'm Melinda Fargus, and I'm your host. And we do have a lot to talk about. The whole world is talking about the Hantavirus, and today we discovered its origin. And it's quite an in-depth story. It's low season in Argentina, Patagonia, Chile. And during this time of year, bird watching is really in. And it seems that two travelers from Holland, one was 70, he and his wife, they went to Argentina at least a week early prior to getting on the ship on April 1st. And they visited what is a very popular area for tourists, believe it or not, and it is a trash dump. It is a landfill area, and there are birds of all species. There's some birds that are only found in Patagonia, which is what this guy spotted. But there are also rodents, specifically a long-tailed pygmy rice rat. And it's the only known strand that is the human-to-human transmission. Anyway, they go ahead and get on board ship. Didn't feel sick until after they got on board, now 5 days after visiting this area. And you might wonder, well, how did they get it on them? Even stepping on feces can make this airborne. And if they were in this area for more than 15 minutes walking around and disturbing the feces, that's what has caused them to get sick. I'm gonna share the map. See down at the bottom, April 1st is when they got on. 11 days later, the husband dies. And the wife decides to fly home because she's not feeling well on April 24th. Now, she was like the ground zero person who got it into South Africa. Airline stewardess has tested positive, and so now they're doing all of the tracing of who has this person come in contact with. 2 days after she gets home, she too dies. Then everybody heard that now there's deaths and people sick. And so they're able to arrive at Cabo Verde Island on May 3rd. And some are airlifted right then. The first passengers began showing the signs 5 days after, and now there is a bunch of them. Moving on up to this Saturday, the ship arrives in the Canary Islands, and there's 10 cases, 3 deaths, and 94 people of 19 different nationalities that arrive. 18 headed to the United States. 1 is from North Carolina. He or she, because they didn't say. The person from North Carolina is in Omaha, Nebraska, at the University of Nebraska, which is the largest CDC containment for quarantines in the United States. They arrived very early this morning, left yesterday. And arrived today, Atlanta. We're not really sure because I listened to 2 hours of briefings this morning. In Nebraska, and 2 were sent on. One confirmed case is the French Prime Minister, who was flown back to France on Sunday. That's scary. They've been on this ship pretty close, well, 6 weeks. They've been on this ship together. And so the French Prime Minister is one confirmed case, one case here from North Carolina. And I did hear someone say that the North Carolina traveler was symptomatic. So one arrived and they're confirmed with the virus. One has mild symptoms and 15 were pretty much okay. One was moved to the biocontainment area there in Omaha, Nebraska, and the others are housed in a 300 square foot room that would look something like a hotel. The containment time, quarantine time, is 42 days. So it's uncertain how long they will stay. Right now, they're all invited to stay for the whole 42 days. I guess it will depend on where it goes from here. Today, more cases were announced. And so we have 20 passengers from the UK. I'm sorry, a few more than that. 20 were from Britain. One German has already been flown home, and one Japanese is being monitored. The Australian and New Zealand travelers were supposed to be flown home today because the deadline for getting out of the Canary Islands was tonight at 7 p.m. their time. So that's already passed. But the passengers for Australia and New Zealand, the plane coming from Australia had difficulties, and they just said that it was equipment. There were equipment issues, and so they're going to be flown to the Netherlands with the other travelers. Now, 30 crew members are going to stay on the ship, and they're going to navigate this vessel back to Holland for a thorough cleaning. But the WHO stresses, this is not COVID. This is not anything like COVID. It's not going to spread like that. It doesn't spread like that. You have to swap bodily fluids, like you have to swap spit or other ways to share bodily fluids in order for this to pass human to human. The symptoms are flu-like with a fever, nausea, GI issues, and the kicker is the respiratory failures. It's close and prolonged contact of at least 15 minutes or longer. So maybe the wife of the Dutchman, maybe she was having symptomatic issues on the plane, and the stewardess was kind enough to help, and now that stewardess is tested positive. Anyway, the deadline of 7 p.m. today. We'll see how this goes from here. But I know from church to the restaurants we were at this weekend, everybody was asking me about this. And there's not a great deal that we can share other than what we're hearing on the news. I have contained or absorbed hours of content to come up with this information to share with you. And I hope that that map was helpful. Well, my first story was going to be about the devastation that's all over Mississippi, the Mississippi Valley. There were more than 400 homes completely destroyed. There is not a shared death toll as of yet. But it was a powerful line of storms, and it ripped across the whole Mississippi Valley, producing more than a dozen tornadoes and causing widespread damages. The communities of Brookhaven, Purvis, Lincoln County were especially hit hard, and emergency crews are still clearing debris and restoring power, and travelers should expect delays, detours, and extended recovery efforts in the whole region. The cars were, but anyway, what I did notice that was that 11 homes right in one area, backyards backed up to 11 homes had no roofs. All of the roofs were gone. It's severe. And they warned that when I first told you that we were going to have a not so active hurricane season, forecasters now are kind of changing their tune. There's so much news tonight that I'll bring you updates on the 2026 hurricane season next week. If you are some of the ones who had Spirit airline tickets, they officially shut down on May 2nd. I shared that with you. They say that the majority of the refunds have been processed. So if you had a Spirit Airlines reservation, if you had a ticket, you had purchased it, you need to be watching your credit card statements, because if you paid by credit card, it will be refunded automatically back to your card. I'm very impressed that in 9 days, they say that they've refunded the majority of travelers. We'll just see how that goes. But I listed in the comments a couple other links. I've started putting links to each of these stories in the comments so that you can verify what I'm telling you, or read more about it, or just expand your knowledge. Anyway, I was watching a Rosen report, Jeff Rosen, and he had a link on his webpage, jeffrosenreports.com. And I looked to post it again right before the show, and I couldn't find it, but I'm sure that it's on rosenreports.com. Okay. I'm going to go back to this picture because I'm just going to tell you a whole bunch of stuff that has gone on this week. Yesterday, on on Carnival's Celebration Key, a 80-year-old lady was in her wheelchair, the kind that completely drove off the pier, between the pier and the ship. Her husband jumped in right after her. Some bystanders said that she hit her head either on the pier on the way down or on the boat on the ship on the way down. Anyway, they were both retrieved, but even with CPR and all forms of resuscitation, they were not able to save the lady. So be thinking about this family. That would be a terrible thing to happen on Mother's Day weekend. It would be something you'd always remember. That's hard. Another thing that happened on cruise ships this weekend is the Margaritaville at Sea, the one that was flipped from a Costa ship over to be Margaritaville. It goes out of West Palm Beach. It's a much larger ship than what they ran out of West Palm Beach the first few years. It's still an older ship, but it's so much better than what they originally started with. Anyway, this weekend, they returned from their first sailing into Mexico on May 5th on Cinco de Mayo. They were in Cozumel, and that was a big victory for a little cruise ship, a little cruise line, a small cruise line, a cruise line that's really trying to make efforts upwards and to show up. And they realized that, people do want to go to other places more than just the Bahamas. So we look for a longer itinerary to be available going forward. We'll have to see how that goes. Well, I hope that you don't know somebody who is on a ship this week going to the Bahamas. It may not make any difference to you, but there's a big uproar because tomorrow is election day in the Bahamas. And so no alcohol will be served anywhere on any island in any shape or form. So it's completely shut down. There'll be no alcohol served. So Royal Caribbean decided that they would have a sea day instead of having people complain. And MSC decided that they still will go to their private island and people will just have to deal with not having drinks. Island on another day. I guess it really makes a difference. And for people who are doing short cruises, one day out of your beach vacation day would be challenging if drinking was your cup of tea. And from having been there, I will tell you that's a lot of people's motivation. So to go to the beach and sit out in the hot sun and not be able to drink has been a put off for several people. Well, today in Florida, a cruise passenger was she gave herself up. 2 months ago, a lady from Iowa was on the Carnival Sunrise. Her name is Jennifer Faust. She looked to be between 45 and 50-ish. Kind of a rough-looking lady, very short hair, no makeup. Anyway, she got into an altercation with a juvenile, an adult that was under 21. Security came and they did the sweep, of tell us what happened. They got both sides. And ordinarily when something like this happens, then you're met by the local police when the ship comes into port. But that didn't happen. And so I guess the family of the juvenile contacted her, found her in Iowa. She hired an attorney and she came to Florida and today she turned herself in. They did allow her to be released on bond, a $2,500 bond, and now she will probably go back to Iowa and await the court date. So I hope that y'all had a wonderful Mother's Day weekend. We did. I got to see the kids. They went off to Wilmington to watch Jack graduate and to be baptized. And it was just a big weekend for all of us. But now, why did I start to tell you that? Oh, so this mom post, Happy Mother's Day. I'm just gonna have to read it to you because I won't be able to tell you all of it exactly right without sharing. The mom posted, flights $1,000. My kid knocking on random doors, $500. Tell your kids not to knock on doors because Carnival ain't playing. They tried to say it was both of my kids and the fine would have been $1,000. But we spent the last hour sitting in a room waiting for security to show us proof that my other daughter was involved. Just saw the video and she was not involved. So we're looking at one $500 fine. I'm not upset about paying a fine for my child's behavior. Just warning everyone so you know to make your kids aware. Boy, if that had been me, that would have probably been my last cruise my parents would have taken me on. I tend to agree. I think parents are responsible for their kids. This was like a ding dong DoorDash running down the hall, and people were disturbed, and it was who knows what time of the morning, but it was late at night or into the morning hours. So I guess it's just a warning to be aware. I know this is a whole lot to take in. I went 7 minutes over what I typically will run, but you guys, let me know down in the comments if you appreciated all of this information. And my famous call to action this week is Viking Cruises has got free international airfare and $25 deposits on 26 and 27 European river cruises. It will save you up to $5,000. So if a river cruise has been on your bucket list, now's the time to reach out to me. My email and phone number are right here at the bottom of the screen. River cruising, if you haven't heard me say this, it is the epitome of vacation. It's just so chill. And to be floating through on pretty much rivers that are like glass and just floating through cities and towns and castles that are up on top of the hillside. It's hard to beat that with great food, a very small number of people. Most of the river cruises are not going to have more than 220 people on the entire vessel. So if that trips your trigger, reach out to me. Viking is the deal of the week. Thanks so much, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this. And if you see something going on this week that you think I need to report on weekly travel updates, please share and let me know. If you've had something catastrophic happen to you, let me know that so that we can share and learn together. Again, this is Melinda Fargas. Remember, without a travel agent, you're on your own. But with Action Travel, you're never alone. Thanks for checking us out. And please go and like, the video on YouTube. I sure would appreciate it. Ciao, guys. Have a great evening.